astrology. So we have to go back to the late 90s. Da, 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 da. And
were you alive in the late 90s?
The late 90s.
Yeah.
So the late 90s. So what happened was I fought the world and it fought me. In every way, shape and form that you could imagine. I was also someone who survived everything. So there's the kind of strong will, there's the tenacious spirit, there's I can take life on, and I survived everything. But I wasn't thriving. And in the late 90s, it was a culmination of a few things. One was I had a completely dysfunctional family. And I'm very vocal about that because I think sacred cows is what actually holds people back. So I had a very dysfunctional family, and that was having a negative impact in terms of my ability to thrive. I had just finished, I trained as a barrister and got kicked out of bar school, and it's one of the proudest things that I was actually involved in because myself and 4 other women took on the Inns of Court School of Law and we challenged discrimination at the bar. We ran a 3-year vociferous and vigorous and challenging and a really dynamic and transformative campaign, so much so they lost the monopoly to teach. It opened it up to other people, and we, as a result of it, they anonymised the marking system.
Amazing.
It was a truly transformational thing, and we were all over the press. I mean, we were real guerrilla marketers and guerrilla PR. So I really cut my teeth in terms of that sort of development work. But if I go back in time, my dad actually politicised me because he took me to Speaker's Corner from the age of 4 to 12. So that's going back in time. But during the 90s, it was this combination of broken dreams, a loss of my own identity, because from a young child I always thought I was going to be a barrister. I love this whole sense of advocacy. Anyway, so it was trying to deal with the transition of an identity that was no longer going to materialise. I was also recovering from an emotional heartache, so there was that mix. I was also slightly confused because the identity had changed, and I was working in the non-profit sector, and I just knew I wasn't, things weren't gelling. Yeah. So it's that combination of events that came together. And I remember one day going to my mum's home. It was just the 2 of us, and I walked into her very brightly lit dining room, which was painted in, imagine, the brightest of yellows, gloss. Ooh. I'm sure she brought Jamaica into the room, trust me. And there was the multitude of colours. Anyway, it was just the 2 of us, and I just said to my mum, I can't live like this anymore. And so I was imploding, and the strong will and, you know, put on the kind of armour. I just knew I couldn't live like that anymore. Something was missing. And all she said was, thank God you realised. That's all she said. So that, in that sort of late 90s moment, I just knew I had to surrender. I didn't know what the tool would be that would enable me to surrender and to open up. I thought I would be looking at philosophy, you know, am I fated? I understood fated. Do I have free will? Is it a dichotomy? Is it a continuum? Do I start at one end and, you know, just consecutively work to the other end? Or is it a bit of, you know, a blend? So I thought I'd study philosophy, but I didn't study philosophy. Astrology found me and I found it. And it was a beautiful blend. I remember going to my first astrology class, and it was led by a woman called Sue Tompkins. I think she still practices, a famous British astrologer. And it was like I'd come home. I sat in that room, and it would be like asking fish, what's the temperature of the water? And fish would say, what water? That's what it felt like to me, and I can still see myself there. It was like, I've come home, and I'm open to what this may bring to me, lead me into, but I just came home. Anyway, So I studied it vociferously, read it, went to the Faculty of Astrological Studies, did it for about 2 or 3 years, wanted to do a master's in astrology, none existed at that time. I came across Jung through astrology, and I was feeling this bored, you know, the law had stopped, this non-profit sector was there, wasn't really fulfilled, so I wanted to do a master's. None existed, so I did a master's in Jungian analytic psychology. It had nothing to do with astrology. That's another story. And so I had this fantastic understanding of the psyche. I understood it from an astrological point of view and what that does to open us up as individuals. And then it was underpinned by this psychoanalytic, Jungian psychoanalytic training. I certainly did not want to go down the road of psychoanalysis because I think that traps and blocks people, and I'm very forward-thinking. Shortly after, so I did the masters, my mum died in between, astrology kind of receded on the kind of periphery of my life, and life took over in the way that it can do, and it does. Fast forward, I came home to astrology for good. We will never be separated again. And this was about 3 years ago when I started my astrology channel. I had an epiphany, a very, very clear epiphany. I wrote a 50-year plan about 9 years ago, so I had a great texture of what my life is going to look like. The epiphany came in 2012, and it just was brought into sharper focus, and astrology forms part of that. And it's part of my dharma to help people. The way that I feel I can make a contribution, there's a few ways, but with regards to astrology, it's about helping people connect the dots of their soul so they can create a transformative narrative in order to make conscious choices to live an authentic and soulful life. That's my definition of being an astrologer. That's my contribution. And the reason being is because there are so many cautionary tales all around us every day. People struggling to reconnect themselves, people living within this kind of straitjacket of what society has told them to do, or they've kind of fallen into it, or what the expectations are, etc., etc. So for me, it's very much about how can I contribute in a way that's meaningful, A, to myself, because I think all of us need to honour and bring compassion to our own lives, so we must feed self first and then be able to connect authentically with other people. So that's my journey into astrology. I was a Buddhist, so after the Masters, that's when I met Ruth. I started practicing we both started practicing in 2003. I turned 40. I loved turning 40, and I wanted to mark my life with something very profound and personal to myself, and have a kind of moral compass that I could continue to build my life upon. And that's where I met Ruthie. Practiced for 12 years and stopped practicing 3 years ago. And so I have this wonderful triumvirate of self-understanding, astrology, then the psychoanalytic Jungian approach to understanding self and individuation, and then I took myself on this journey of Buddhism, and it allowed me to answer one key question, and I've answered it, and it took me 12 years to answer it, and it's a question that forever will be in my world: how to turn poison into medicine. It's a very profound question that runs the gamut of Soka Gakkai Buddhism, and although I no longer practice, it is a very powerful question that I spent 12 years actively meditating on, because Soka Gakkai Buddhism is very much about action. It's not Zen and you're just Zen. I liked it because it was action orientated. So that gives you a sense of who I am, what I bring to astrology, why I got into astrology, and now it's time for the taster. Yeah. Okay. So through these taster sessions, what I'm doing is introducing the core concepts of astrology, and astrology is quite a dense subject. I love it. It's like engineering, tech. It's a subject that you will always learn. It's an ever-evolving subject, and it answers the different parts of me. I'm very analytical and I'm very creative. Tech allows me to be the analytical and then think of, oh, what could I create? And then astrology is this wonderful fusion that I'm allowing my soul to breathe in the most natural and harmonious way. And that's the place from which I live my life. So, given that astrology is such a dense subject, I thought with these tasters, what I'll do is I will teach the core concepts through the birth chart of famous people. Because then the people over the 3 weeks, everybody knows who these people are. So it's going to be more relatable than if I took any of our charts. I could still do it, but I just thought, let's turn it into something a little bit more interactive, because if you know, you'll know who these people are, but it's through the keyhole of the birth chart. So, as you can see, there is no date, there's no other data, except this mandala. So, when one approaches astrology, one can describe it as a blueprint, your inner blueprint. It's a map of your psyche. It's a map of your potentialities. And what do I mean by this? Potentialities in terms of personality, characteristics, strengths, weaknesses, the energy pattern of your life that was created the moment you took your first breath. And so when one looks at, this is a birth chart, it's a rough hand one, but conceptually it's the same. This is a birth chart. It has 12 houses. As you can see, I've numbered them. 1, 2, 3, and goes all the way round to 12. And it's broken down into the 12 areas of life. Now, there are other ways of understanding the composition of life, like within the Buddhist practice, you've got the 10 worlds, and within the 10 worlds, you can look at life in a variety of different ways. So astrology just offers this as another way to peel back the layers of what society and what you have bought into in order for you to have a sense of your internal wiring. Yeah? What makes me tick? And actually, if there are glitches, if I'm conscious of the glitches, that means I now have a choice in terms of how I'm going to approach my glitches. The beauty of a birth chart is it brings what is unconscious to consciousness. So it's like, you know, once you're unaware of something, okay, you don't know it, until somebody says you've got a nose, yeah? You know it. Now, what you choose to do with the knowledge is entirely up to you. And so what astrology can offer is an insight into your internal wiring to help you understand your own behavioural patterns. And if you can understand your own behavioural patterns, you will make far more, or you have the choice to make healthier, alternative choices to move your life from point A to point B. Because instead of you know, hitting your head against the brick wall or finding, how did this happen to me? Oh yeah, I remember, I did. Oh yeah, yeah. We all have our own version of that until we begin to clean it up. Astrology is just one tool that enables people to do that. So, the mystery person's chart. I think it was you, Noor, who said I've got Capricorn moon and Pisces sun and Libra?
Yeah, Libra moon, Capricorn rising, Pisces sun.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what she's just indicated is the triad. So, what I'm going to do, I think I've got other colours. This is the chart. The first house is you. Yeah? The moment you took your first breath, the chart opens. Where were the planets at that moment you took your first breath? The planet that was rising at the moment this person took their first breath was Uranus. And the reason why it's Uranus is because the rising sign is Aquarius. So I'm just going to put the symbol for Uranus here. So what is this planet Uranus? Uranus is calling all of us to be individual, eccentric, different. It's the rebel in all of us, where we have to break free from convention. How do we break free? How do we become unique, different, distinctive? It's all in the realm of Aquarius, and Uranus is the planet. There are 10 planets. Uranus is the planet of distinction. Every single one of us, we have all of the planets, they're just differently configured. Every single one of us, wherever Uranus, and Uranus in this person's chart is in this house, but we'll get to that in a minute. So Uranus was discovered in 1781, and it was discovered by an astronomer and a composer. So, you know, you had this person who's really into where's the planets and all the celestial bodies and what does that mean? And then he saw this flickering of a light in 1781. His name is Sir William Herschel, but he was William Herschel at the time. At the time that Uranus, this planet, was flickering away in the universe, there were things happening on planet Earth. And the things that were happening on planet Earth was the Industrial Revolution, the American Revolution, and just slightly after the discovery, the French Revolution. So when we're looking at astrology, we're looking at astrologers and the study, the science and the art of astrology is attempting to provide a narrative of what the movement of the planets, what narrative could that have to events and to people's lives. And so we can do it, we can look back retrospectively, because at the time that Uranus was discovered, revolutions were taking place on planet Earth. And so astrology is the movement of the planets, and they have something called aspects. Aspects are where they talk to each other. It's a square, it's a trine, it's a conjunction, it's an opposition, it's a quincunx. These aspects provide a narrative. So when this person took their first breath, Uranus was rising, which means that the chart opens at Aquarius. So here's somebody who's distinctive, will break new ground. Uranus also rules the higher mind. It's an air sign. Yeah? There are 3 air signs, like there are 3 fire signs, like there are 3 earth signs and 3 water signs. So, with the higher mind, it's where you can be really inventive, innovative, distinctive, different. So the way the rising sign, the way we might engage with each other is through the rising sign. It might not be the sun sign, because there is a saying, you are born into your rising sign and you grow into your sun sign. Some people put it the other way around. And the idea is that to open up our personalities and to give us a higher perspective in which we can situate our lives, we are aiming to bridge the triad. And that's why I asked you what your triad is. The triad is the ascendant, the rising sign, the face you give, the mask, the face you present to the world, and the one that the world sees back. Then we have the sun, the core identity, I am. And then we have the moon, I feel, emotions. And in every single chart, what you're aiming to do is to reconcile the triad. Okay, so we're going to go, so I can just make it a little bit more visible for you. this is the triad. All of ours will be different, but the core things are the ascendant or rising sign, the sun sign, and the moon. Now there are different elements in astrology. We have an air sign that is the rising sign. So somebody who is, this person is mercurial, loves to exchange ideas. This is an ideas person. Like Kemi said, her sun is Gemini. Gemini is another air sign. Whereas this person is a conceptual thinker. A Geminian is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is exalted, meaning it's at the highest position. Somebody who's really clever. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So somebody with Kemi's personality, with a sun sign in Gemini, is somebody who's chatty, will go out into the world, gather information, bring it all back, and she's spoken to everybody and said, oh, I've got all of this information, diverse pieces of information. The other sign that Mercury rules is Virgo. Here, I've got Virgo, I've got my Mercury in Virgo, so it's in a dignified position, meaning it's in a really strong position. I would take Kemi's information, she's gone out into the world, she's got all this information, I'm like, thank you very much, Kemi. Now, let's make sense of the data. Both mercurial, but different. Hers will come to it as an air, I will come to it as an earth. I must now turn this data into something meaningful. Whereas when Mercury is exalted, this is somebody who's a great conceptual thinker. It's air, one element. Sun is in fire, it's in Leo. Think of nature. What happens in nature with air and fire? Do they work together? Do they not work together? They work very well together. Here's the beginning of bridging the triad. Now, the moon is in air. So, this person, how do you think they could present themselves? There are two air elements, so there's coherence. So the way this person presents himself to the world and the way this person emotes about the world, there is some congruence there. And the fact that this person's sun is in a fire sign, they work elementally together. And whatever chart, this is the starting point. What can happen sometimes, you might have the rising sign in air, the moon sign in water, and the sun sign in earth. Somebody who's pulled. That's why you think, who am I talking to today? Yeah? That's the reason why. Because they haven't been able to connect the dots of who they are. They might appear not incoherent, but the face they give to the world, air, the sun is very grounded, and the emotions can be all over the place. You're thinking, how does this person manage the different parts of them? It's called the triad. Okay? So there's coherence with this person's triad. So we've come through the keyhole is here. The keyhole says, okay, we've got an airy person who, and Aquarius is about the collective, it's about the masses, okay? Before I tell you or give you another clue or an indication, I want to step away from the triad for the moment, because if we go too quickly into the triad, you may guess the person very easily. So let's step away from the triad for a minute. How would you tell if somebody has, so this person is very well known. We're going to step away from the core identity. Sun is your core identity. It's in Leo. So here's somebody who is really presents themselves to the world as somebody confident. Yeah? What else, when you look at this patterning, what stands out to you? Is there anything that stands out?
I notice there's a lot of
Right.
yeah
Okay.
activity.
There's a lot of activity. Now, what Kemi's pointing at is called a stellium. That means that there are 3 or more planets or placements in one sign or one house. So immediately, when you're looking at this chart, okay, you look at the chart, you think, okay, I can see different colours and what have you, but my eye is immediately drawn here. Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. It's a congested house. So you're looking at, there's a lot of activity here. This is a focal point in the chart. Okay? What else do you notice? So let's just take that, because that's a focal point. This is called a stellium. Okay? What else do you notice? Look at the blue. How is the blue configured?
It's mostly on one side.
Right. Which side?
Right side.
Right, so it's on the right side. What else do you notice? How many blues do you see from, okay, so the chart is split into 12 areas.
There's a big area that hasn't got much in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's nothing going on in that person's life? No. The reason being, there are 10 planets, there are 12 houses, and if a planet isn't in a house, there's always going to be a ruler of the house, and wherever the ruler of the house is where the activity is. Okay? This person has a day chart. And the reason why this person has a day chart, you'll notice that there are only 1, 2, 3, because we're in the area of 1 to 6, is one half of the chart. Okay?
Yeah.
There are only 3 placements. The rest of the placements are up here.
Oh yeah.
What do you think that says? So we're looking at the hemisphere of a chart. Okay? This is the lower hemisphere. This is the upper hemisphere. Just guess, what do you think it could mean?
So that would be north, would it?
Yes, you could look at,
Higher?
yeah. So you're on the right track. What do you think that could mean? Think of your own personality. Are you
In balance?
not in balance? Are
Top
you
heavy.
Are you internal or external?
Ah. Right.
The majority of the planets are in the upper hemisphere,
Yeah.
which suggests this person is somebody who is very externally facing. Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Didn't know that, did you know? No. Okay. So they are outward looking. If the majority of the planets were in the houses 1 to 6, they would be more internal. They'd be more reflective. That's not to say external people can't be reflective, but the energy and the experiences they will gain will be in the outer world, and the experiences from the outer world will help facilitate their growth. Okay? So this person has the majority of their planets in the outer world, in the upper hemisphere. What could it tell you?
That their performance or they
Right? So
present.
I'm just now going to jot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to build, obviously I know who the person is,
Yes.
but this is a great way for you to think about the composition of a chart.
Yeah.
We're going to build it together. We're going to build the identity of this person together. Okay?
Okay.
What could it suggest about this person? So Kemi has said like a performer. Okay. So we've got performer.
So far we talked about Uranus.
Uranus,
the
ascendant, the rising sign.
being the rising sign. So it's somebody that's quite creative.
Right, so let's peel this back a bit more. You'll notice that there are numbers. Numbers, they represent the degree at which the planets were rising appeared when you took your first breath. There are 30 degrees, and the degrees add to the narrative. So, the ascendant is at 18 degrees and 14 minutes. So we're going to log the minutes off and just look at the degrees. Now, if you think about it, Aries, 1, Taurus, 2, Gemini, 3, Cancer, 4. You get to 12 Pisces. Then you start again. Aries, 13, Taurus, 14, Gemini, 15. Until you get to 30. So this person's ascendant is Aquarius at 18 degrees. 18 degrees is an extension of Virgo. Okay, the sign Virgo. It's 6 degrees on from Aries. Virgo is somebody, Virgo for all of us is where we can be analytical, critical, really into the detail of things, really into hard work, you know, where we take pride in the work that we do. So let's open up this person's identity. We know that this person could be quite innovative as a thinker. This person relates well to the masses because it's the collective. And this person takes pride in working for the collective. Yeah? This is one indication. And it's air. Okay? If you look opposite, the 7th house is where the stellium is. Now in the 7th house, so if you imagine the first house is I am, this is who I am. You've broken away from your mum, you've been birthed, you've come into the world, this is who I am, and it's all very airy. And I can be quite cool and, you know, analytical, and some people might even think I'm aloof, but I'm not really. I like to work hard, I take pride in the work that I do. The mandala of a chart is about opposition. So if this is the house of I, this is the house of we. This is the house of intimate relationships, close friendships, business relationships, you know, the people that you are having your relationships with. That can also provide growth. So in this person's 7th house, they are going to learn a lot about who they are through their relationships in the 7th house. So it's polarized. There's one part of their personality that says, I like to be a bit aloof and a bit distant, but I'm not really. There's another part of their personality, because that's where this person's sun is in Leo. This person has to take center stage. And or this person in a previous life was so busy being objective and taking care of everybody that they were quite uncomfortable in their past life to show up on center stage. So in this life, they've got Leo. Take the stage of life. So this is to do with all types of relationships, you know, social relationships, business relationships, political relationships, intimate relationships. It's got 4. So we've got the sun. The sun is, here I am, I'm in Leo, the sign I rule, confident. How can you tell if this person was born in a city or countryside or by an ocean, by a river? How can you tell?
No idea.
No idea. No. I like that. Exactly. I like that. I've got no idea. Okay, remember this degree theory?
Yeah.
Let's isolate this person. Their sun is in Leo. It's at 12 degrees. 12 degrees is Pisces. So where you see, so what does Pisces rule? Pisces is water. Yeah? Pisces is ruled by Neptune, the lord of the oceans, the lord of the seas. So this person was born in a place that is surrounded by water.
Mad. It's mad that you can map so much.
Yeah. And this person, you know, I'm not speculating, this person was born in a place that is surrounded by water.
Island.
Right, so we've got island. Okay. The clues are coming. Right, Kemi, come on, girl. Okay. How can you tell that this person no longer lives in what Kemi thinks is an island, but actually lives in a city? You don't have to.
Are we back to the 7th house?
We're back to
then?
the 7th house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this person who was born surrounded by water
Yeah.
no longer lives there. This person now lives in a city. And this person lives in a major city. And the reason why I can tell you this person lives in a major city is because the sun is in Leo, and Leo rules major cities.
Right.
And the sun is in its own house there. So
Right.
it has to be a city.
Right.
Yeah?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Like, so basically, this is the constellation of planets
Yeah.
at the time of birth.
Yeah.
So does that mean then, I mean, I'm just a bit like, I'm just trying to think about does that mean that from that moment of that first breath,
Yes.
it's mapped that person's going to live in a city?
Ah, that's a great question. This brings in choice.
Yeah.
Remember what I said? It brings the
Yes.
unconscious to light.
Yeah.
Now, you might choose not to. This is where there's fate and free will, yeah? I've got some choices I can make. And once I reveal the person, you'll see why it will become apparent. But there is this dichotomy. The moment of the first breath, it gives a sense of what your inner wiring is. And the journey of growth is through the North Node. Now, you can choose to ignore it and still be doing the South Node things from the past that get you nowhere, but you still do them.
North Node is the journey of growth.
Journey of growth.
Alright, got to write that one down.
North Node is the journey of growth. What happens is because we bring all of us in our finery and not, we bring it to this life and we still do the same tried and tested. Even though it's battering us and beating us and, no, I like this. Why? It's our comfort zone. We know it so well. Yeah, it's part of our portfolio. But the growth in this life is through the North Node. All right? So this person now lives in a city.
Her North Node's in Gemini, that's what she just shared with me.
Okay, yeah, so this person now lives in a city.
Sorry, I didn't mean to publish that.
And the reason being, Leo is associated also with royalty and dignity, yeah, prominence. So it would be very unusual for this person not to have been to the places they've been to or done the things that they've done with this type of configuration. And so this person was born on an island, so we have to give a high five to our Kemi, right? This person was born on an island. This person now lives in a city. I won't give you the city yet. Let's now dig in more into the stellium, because when you have a stellium, you've got 4 or more. A conjunction is where 2 planets or more planets are forming a very tight relationship. So it's like they really rub off against each other. This person's Uranus and the North Node. So the North Node is this future growth This is about, you have to be the star of the show, but you need to grow in confidence to do it. That's your journey for this life, and when you do it, you're going to own it. And you're going to do it in such a distinctive, memorable way, because you've got Uranus, where you need to be the rebel, where you need to break free. And it's at 25 degrees, which brings us round to the cycle of Aries. Aries initiates. Aries is a cardinal sign. You foot on the accelerator and you go. Yeah? So action orientated. So this person is action orientated, was born on an island, now lives in a city, and has done wonderful things. Okay, has done wonderful things. Before I tell you that, I want to bring you now to this house. You see, this house is the 12th house. It's got Saturn there, and Saturn is in the sign, one of the signs it rules. Saturn is about authority. It's about, Saturn teaches us lessons, sometimes very painfully, as I wince about my own Saturn return. It was brutal. It was brutal. Saturn return is where Saturn comes back to itself, and it comes back between the age of 28 and 30. And so I'll be coming up for my next one in the next 2 or 3 years. It won't be so brutal, because I was clearly unconscious in those days.
Yeah.
Yes, and so the lessons were thick, fast and brutal. But anyway, this person has Saturn in Capricorn at 25 degrees in the 12th house. Some descriptions of the 12th house is where you come home to yourself. It's about what's hidden, so like prisons and hospitals, where people are forgotten. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, it's the natural house of Pisces. So here you could be coming home for your own personal redemption. Here is where you're joining the dots of your experiences through the other 11 houses. And you're now on this spiritual quest. And it's also the house, which not a lot of people talk about. They all think the 12th house is hidden. The 12th house is where you have an impact on the masses. So it can't be. Yeah, it can't all be about this inner work. What it does suggest is how you have an impact on the masses over impersonal assets, like the road is an impersonal asset, like the air is an impersonal asset, like public utilities, they are impersonal assets because you don't own them. We all own them. It's the house of the collective. Saturn, so here's another clue coming up. Saturn, so this person, before they went on to do what they did, they wanted to be an architect, and they were they taught. How could you tell this? How would you know that?
That they taught.
That they taught.
Because you mentioned that the 12th house is about authority.
Yeah.
And collective.
Yeah. And Saturn is the master teacher.
Okay.
We can learn some of our most brutal lessons, but also when we're now externalizing it, we are the authority, the expert. Let's peel it away some more. Before this person went on to prominence, they were a professor. In what subject do you think they were a professor in? Think about this symbol of Saturn.
What is that symbol?
So if this is Saturn,
Yeah.
that's a symbol.
Yeah.
What does it represent? Authority.
Yeah. Master,
Yeah.
teacher.
Master teacher.
You said the person wants to be an architect.
They wanted to be an architect. So let me help you. Saturn rules structure.
Oh,
Yeah? So think of archaeology,
yeah.
bones, concrete, structure. It's in the sign, one of the signs it rules. It's in Capricorn, solidity, concrete.
That's Capricorn.
Yeah, this is Capricorn, yeah? We're looking at authority figures, so we're looking at governance. Yeah, you know, you're a tutor in the classroom, in the lecture theatre, you're coming with your expertise. The fact that Saturn is in one of the signs it rules, which is about governance, this person taught constitutional law.
Oh.
Because the Constitution
Grounded and...
is connected with the authority.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Who do you think it is?
Well, she's what it is, but she's passing it to me. I'm like, Obama?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's Obama.
But she got it before the constitutional law bit.
Yeah. So let's break, so it's Obama. So let's really dive into, so that's why I was trying not to go here, because you would get it here. But let's look at how he married Michelle.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's really peel it back now. Well done, so it's Obama. What made you think it was Obama? That's that's fine, that's why you passed it. Yeah. Yeah, so Obama. So let's break this down. He started as a community organizer in Chicago. He worked hard for the community, the first clue. The collective, community, right. 18 degrees, Virgo, he rolled up his sleeves and he got down to business. At the same time as he'd come through Harvard, he taught constitutional law, which is about governance, the system of what contains us, controls us, governs us. He led it because it's 25 degrees, which is Aries, cardinal sign. He wanted to be an architect. The reason being, and Google it, it's there. And he's now sort of, well, let's look at it this way. He wanted to become an architect because Saturn is at 25 degrees, meaning it's Aries, which is ruled by Mars, which means to build. A solid edifice. It's in Capricorn, so it's Earth, so it's something that has to be materialised, okay? So that gives us an indication. He then went on to become the architect of change.
Yes, he did.
He did, yeah? This is where he implemented his revolutionary practices. So I came up with this phrase that could describe us, any of us, when we're trying to reconcile the triad, He's the king with the soul of a storyteller. Yes. See? Yeah. Wearing the mask of the revolutionary.
Beautiful.
And that's why, for me, as an astrologer, it's about enabling people to see the expansiveness of who they could be. It's so powerful. And this man has lived it out. So let's peel it back. What was his catchphrase?
Yes, we can.
All right, where is it in the chart? Let's come back to here.
Yeah.
Right. 2 degrees is so there are critical degrees within astrology, and 2 degrees is like the best of the best.
Oh, right.
Yeah?
Why is that?
It just is.
All right.
Okay? And the reason, but let me answer that properly for you.
Yeah.
2 degrees is Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus rules 2 signs, Libra and Taurus. So Libra is about the aesthetics and Taurus is about what can be felt, so it's through the senses. His is at 2 degrees. It's a critical sign, but it means the absolute best. He is no doubt one of the world's best orators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mercury.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
Mercury,
Communication.
the phenomenal communications skills, okay? In the 7th house of politics, yes? Inspirational, aspirational, motivational, yeah? He lit the whole world up. It's Leo. His son, yeah? He transformed politics. But how else did he transform politics? Let's look back here. He broke every record when it came to the election campaign. How did he win the first campaign? What did he do? Who did he enroll?
What's his name? His deputy, you mean?
No. Think about the masses. What did he do? Social media.
Oh,
Technology is right Aquarius.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He broke new ground
Yeah,
using social media.
he did.
And he used young people
Yeah,
to galvanise the masses.
absolutely, you're right.
They all got to work on the campaign to improve the lives of everybody. Why everybody? Because Jupiter is the planet of bountifulness, expansiveness, risk-taking for the masses. And he articulated it powerfully, you know. How could we tell that a word in the title of his first book is shown by this, by the sun in the 12th? What's the title of his first book? Dreams of My Father. If you haven't read that book, you have to read that book.
Wow.
Why? Okay, so we have the sun at 12 degrees, which is Pisces. Pisces is associated with dreams.
Oh. Yes.
Pisces, that's one of the things. It's associated with dreams. So here we have this powerful orator who broke new ground politically, yeah? He did it in a transformative way, yeah? And his destiny was to lead because all of these placements are in the sign of Leo.
Yeah.
And the reason why he lives in a capital city is because Leo and the sun means it has to be a capital city in the heart of what is considered royalty. They don't have royalty there, so he lived in the White House.
Yes. Yes.
He lived in the White House. So he moved from the ocean, he was born in Hawaii, surrounded by water. Yeah? His north node, this man could not lead, could not lead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The signature is so powerful.
Powerful, isn't it?
So powerful. And it's right there in his 7th house of relationships. Now, let's come back to Saturn, because Saturn is the authority figure. So the way that I really relate to astrology now, so I've done lots of studying, obviously I've had hundreds of books, and then there's a point where I've sort of stepped back from books. I don't consult books. I do from time to time. I'm now into imbibing. When I see a chart, it's like the narrative begins to just, I imbibe the narrative. I can now analyse with even more depth. And that's the reason why I've chosen public figures, so at least it's public. Oh yeah, that person did. Oh, really?
Yeah, it really qualifies it.
It qualifies it. So let's look at Michelle. How did he marry? How did he attract? And why did he? I say why, we're speculating. But let's speculate. On the basis of this chart configuration, in what circumstances did he meet Michelle?
Wasn't it when he was working as a community?
No, but you're tied in. So you know when we're thinking of our mates and the type of person and this, that and the other, I haven't looked at Michelle's chart.
Right.
So I'm reading Michelle through his chart.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how I broke it down. So we've got the houses. The first house is I, the second house is my possessions, my values, my talents, my skills. The third house is siblings, local areas, like compulsory school education. You know, your thought process, writing, journalism, speaking, very Geminian. The fourth house is the house of home. That's your literal home, your ancestral home, your family home, all representatives of home. The fifth house is the house of, self-expression, creative self-expression, children, romance, love. The sixth house is the house of work and health. So
that's where she is.
So here she is. Here's Venus. Venus in Cancer. At, what's the degree? It's 1 degree. Okay? So here's how I put together how he was able to. Here's my take on how I connected the dots through his own chart. So if you look at his placements in his 7th house, the house of marriage, yeah, the house of his identity. So when you're looking at your marriage, the potential for marriage, you look to your 7th house.
Oh, I'm going to write this down, okay.
Right? You look to the 7th house. The 7th house is the house of marriage. The ruler, so here are some like broad suggestions. So 7th house is the house of marriage. You look at the planets that are in that house. If there are no planets in that house, that doesn't matter. You look at, because you look at the sign.
Right.
What you're looking at is the sign and the ruler of the 7th house. So, his 7th house is Leo. The ruler of the 7th house is in Leo. So, whoever it happened to be Michelle, he was absolutely certain in his decision that she would be his wife. Why? Because there's coherence. The house of marriage, the 7th house, the ruler of it, the sign is Leo, so he has to be with somebody he respects and is proud of. He cannot be with a duppy woman. It would be unimaginable. Not with this configuration. The woman who he would go on to marry has to be somebody he is so proud of, because we've got the sun in the sign it is dignified in. And the ruler of his 7th house is the sun. So there is no other alternative. He would have to marry a woman he loves, because Leo is the sign of love. The woman has to be some woman who he is blown away by, because she is substantive in her own right. How did he meet her? So let's come back to the 6th house. The 6th house is at 1 degree. The woman. Okay? So for men, they look at where their Venus is. Her Venus is at 1 degree of Cancer. The moon rules Cancer, but we're going to come back to the moon in a minute. So the sign of Cancer is about nourishment, nurturing, protection, guiding, mentoring. They met when she mentored him at work.
There you go. Nice.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
That's how they met.
Wow.
She was his mentor.
Wow.
It's at 1 degree, which is Aries. So she's a formidable woman in her own right, powerfully so. Speaks, and it's Aries, a fire sign, speaks to his sun sign.
Yes,
Yeah?
of course.
So she's somebody that resonates deeply because of what's going on here. Let's take, how do we know that she was born and raised in a city that has lakes.
It's more like.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How?
Can I just go back and quickly ask a question?
Yes.
From the beginning we said, this is not, was this his birth chart or this was the chart?
No, his birth chart. This is his birth data. Yeah, this is his birth data.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how can we get where Michelle?
See, I will look at Michelle. She doesn't have a time of birth, but that doesn't matter if it's still a lot that could be read through her chart very powerfully. But I haven't read her chart, but I'm deducing her through him. All right. So let's go back to the genetic chart of America. The genetic chart of America. America was born in the sign of Cancer.
You can do charts for like things.
I have a couple of skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? So the genetic chart of America, the 4th of July, the sun is the 4th of July. So that we know America's chart is Cancerian. The reason why I could deduce, although I know it, but I could work it back, is that her Venus is in the sign of water. It's in Cancer. It's not an ocean, because that would be Pisces, so it would be small, it would be lakes or rivers or streams. But she was born and raised there. And so where was she born and raised? It's in America. Where was she born and raised? No? She was born, so she was born in the Windy City. Where's the Windy City?
Chicago.
Chicago. Chicago is on Lake Michigan.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yes.
Michigan, there we go.
The Great Lakes.
Yes.
And it's the Windy City because Chicago is a blend of Cancer and Capricorn. It's freezing cold. I went to the first inauguration, and when I saw Michelle in one slim, thin, I thought, I don't know how she did it, but she was born and raised in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she looked really, it was minus 17. I have photos, I'll bring them next time. But, so she was born in a place that is surrounded by or nearby water, Chicago. He became a man through community development work in Chicago. Yeah? How could we tell she would go on to be the First Lady? Just by deduction. The genetic chart of America is Cancer. She is the mother of the nation.
Yes.
And when he obviously took office, she took office in her own right. She had to have a role in her own right. She was never going to be a sit back and let's take it all in. Because her Venus is at 1 degree, which is Aries, action orientated. Yeah? Let's read some more about Michelle. What else do we know about Michelle? What's Michelle's mission?
So you described her as mother of...
The First Lady is the mother of the nation.
That's right.
Cancer is the nation of America.
That's right.
So when he took office, she took office in her own right.
Yeah.
Venus is the woman,
Yeah.
the representative of the nation. That's how I put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got this double signature. She was born in water, born near water. We know that's Chicago. The genetic chart for America is Cancer. She's the leading woman, the First Lady of the country. There it is. What's her mission? Throughout her time.
She's always been about honouring women and...
Beautiful. Girls in particular.
Yeah.
Okay, how can we see this? How can we see it in the chart?
Because of where her Venus is, or where Venus is?
So you're in the right area. So her mission is to work with this mission of educating girls. Yeah. She's very passionate about that. So here she is mothering Cancer ruled by the moon. The moon is the feminine. Okay. So what's her mission? How can we tell it was her mission? And his, but I'm looking at her through him. Let's look at the moon. What does Gemini represent?
Mercury, communication.
Right. Education.
Oh, yeah.
Remember what I said?
Yeah,
the
that's
third house is about local, secondary school, young, when you're going through your young education. That's how I was able to work out through his chart what she would be passionate about, because it's the 5th house, and the 5th house is about children as well as create self-expression. It's got the moon there. The moon is at 3 degrees, which is Gemini again, so we've got this double Gemini signature, and they're both very passionate about education. Yeah? That's how I was able to see what he was into and what she was into. Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's look at this 12th. I know. It's like once you peel it back, it really is like, wow.
It's almost like there's no choice.
No, because there are things.
Oh, it's like the drive.
The energy is there, but there are challenges in this chart. I just haven't put them all up here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a couple of challenges. How do we know he was going to be the president?
Because you'd already deduced in the chart royalty. They have no royalty, so the only thing he could have done was be president.
But let's look at the 12th house, because when I said I've kind of moved away from the books, I've kind of imbibed it. I'm now looking at astrology in the world.
Yeah.
Tony Blair, George W. Bush, Gordon Brown. Who else was there? All 3 of them have a signature where Saturn is in the 12th house.
My goodness.
Yeah. So I'm now looking, it's like all of them have a similar signature. They have Saturn in some kind of, either in the 12th house, they might have, I think Tony Blair's got Saturn conjunct the Sun in the 12th house. And I think George W. has got the Sun in the 12th house. Gordon Brown has got, there's Saturn somewhere, and maybe something in connection with the 10th house.
Have you done Jerry Corbyn?
No, I didn't. But authority figures, like Bill Clinton doesn't have it in the 12th house, and I can't think, well, no, but I can't, he's got something in the 10th house.
Okay.
Yeah? I'll check my notes, but he definitely doesn't have Saturn in the 12th, but he was president.
Yeah.
But there was a connection between, I think, his Saturn signature and his Neptune signature. And so when I start to look at it, it's like, here are presidents and prime ministers who have this signature. He has this signature. Any planet that's in the 12th house is about how one relates to the masses. Yeah?
Yeah, that was my last question. So when you're doing this birth chart, the information you have is time, place,
and that's it.
That's it. That's all you have. And
That's
then you
all I
look at
have.
all the moon, everything that's around at that time, what his date of birth.
That's all I need.
That's everything. Okay.
That's all I need. That's all I need. So we can see through his 12th house, and now that he's stepped away from, his presidency is over, he's building the Obama Foundation. Where is he building it? Could only be Chicago.
Chicago.
Right?
Of course.
Right? And he's now indulging his passion for architecture that he's been, involved in.
Okay.
Sharpens.
I know.
It's a break.
Yeah.
I know, it's like, oh.
Water down the wrong hole.
Thank you. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the signature was there. And I've started to look at others, and it's like, yeah, they've got that signature. This is somebody who has gravitas, yeah, authority. Now, how did we know he was the president that was going to steer America out of the crisis?
Oh.
How do we know? I haven't put this configuration up, but let me use this one. He has a trine that goes between Chiron, Neptune and Pisces, Venus. So where we have trines, he has a grand water trine. So water is another element, obviously, and it's where one brings in compassion and sensitivity. So he has the gravitas of the authority figure and has the beautiful blend of the soft skills. What gives him that is this trine, grand water trine. Chiron is in the second house of Pisces. Chiron is where we've been wounded. So in his personal chart, we've all got Chiron, we've all been wounded somewhere. It's in the second house, and there may have been, I say wounding to, there may have been a lack of money, there may have been poverty consciousness growing up as a child. There may be a sense of, you know, not feeling responsible about money. So let's now take that piece of information and step it into the genetic chart of America. He came at the time of the economic downturn. With this message of yes we can. But the trine, it starts in Pisces, it's about the collective. It goes across to Venus, which is also about, Venus is about what you value. And it's about the valuing of the country's values. Yeah? It's a trine, which means that it's an ease and a flow. This is about how can we harmonise? How do we take the needs of the collective in order for everybody to benefit? Grand water trine. Let's think about what happened in the economic downturn. There was an over-capitalisation. People got craven. Yeah? They bankrupted. Every industry was impacted. The wound to the collective resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was somebody who articulated a plan to ensure that as many people as possible were catered for in the rebuilding of the resources.
Yeah.
It's a trine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trine.
Yeah.
Sorry. When you say trine.
A trine, so we have the things called aspects. So a trine, let me do it here. So we have a trine, we have a square, we have a sextile, we have an opposition, we have, these are the main ones, a conjunction and a quincunx.
So do they sort of like
Speak, so they create narratives.
Narratives, not energy flows.
Great point. They are energy flows that create a narrative, yeah? So we're talking about water. So we've got the power. We've got Neptune in the 10th house. That's ordinarily ruled by Pluto. So when we're looking at, and it's in Scorpio. So here we're talking about the regeneration. Pluto is about the regeneration of assets, the regeneration of power, the use and misuse of power. It's also about what's hidden that has to come to light. And we know that there are so many nefarious activities that were going on, yeah, that destabilise the whole economy. Because we're looking at what was hidden that came to light. His grand water trine was a way to harmonise the masses through his presidency. Where was a tension point? A tension point was, let's go back to, we've got Jupiter forming an aspect called a yod. Yeah, a yod.
Language is amazing.
And you know, because it's a symbolic language, but then there's just so much. Right, so a yod is otherwise known as a quincunx or an inconjunct. Okay, so we're looking at this symbol. Okay, sorry, that's a quincunx. The yod is like an isosceles triangle. Okay. You have two planets that are at 60 degrees, that means it's a sextile, this one. Where you have a sextile, that's where opportunities are created. You know, this is an easier flowing energy. This is where planets can work harmoniously together. It's excitement, it's an opportunity, you're going to take some risk, but you could win with it. So these two are in harmony, and they are forming an inconjunct, which means that you've got planets in elements that can't talk to each other. There's an awkwardness. Wherever you have, it's also known as the finger of God, the finger of fate. But where you have a yod, here it's tension, it's pressure, frustration, irritation. It is the worst configuration to have for marriage. Why? Imagine having the ruler of your 7th house, the house of marriage, in a yod. That's pressure. No, don't get married. It's that kind of configuration. And if you do get married, it's going to be pressure, tension, frustration, unhappiness, because you're trying to bring different elements, and it's in your house of what you're seeking is harmony.
Okay, yeah.
It's discordant.
So in the Hindu culture, that's what they do.
That's what
when they do.
yeah.
When they match people together, they do their signs. They
Yeah.
do their birth signs together.
Yeah.
And that's how they decide who should be with whom.
Because
Yes,
it's a nightmare. Now, fortunately, although his Venus, meaning the woman, meaning Michelle, it's not at odds, because the ruler of his 7th house is in its 7th house. But there was a tension point, if we remember back to the early days, where, you know, he wanted to run his ambition, 10th house, MC, the point of where one wants to be seen in the world. Jupiter say, go with it. Jupiter's about your impact right across the world. But it's in a yod with Venus. So he values, clearly, he values his relationship, yeah? So there would have been a tension point. They've spoken about it. You know, what would it have meant to give up everything to run, yeah? And I remember some of Michelle's interviews, we're running for the White House, yeah? No, there's no Barack by himself. We run it together, yeah? But how could it have been reconciled? Because one has to reconcile the yod to be successful. Because it didn't threaten their relationship. Why? Because her Venus sextiles his north node. Beautiful. So the woman in his life backed his ultimate vision. It's a sextile. Easy, effortless, harmony. What did she get? She got a role in her own right. This intelligent, incredible woman who led the mission about harmonising families and educating girls. So that just gives you a sense of how one is able, and I didn't use any transits, that, you know, I've literally created the narrative right from his natal chart.
I see that.
Yeah. And there are many other configurations, you know, the problems he had with the government, blah, blah, blah. But this just gives you an insight into his core, the triad, and how the triad played out, and how the woman in his life, I could read her without even looking at her chart. Because this is about the qualities, and because it's harmonious, you know, this sort of woman. But she was born there, they met there, you know, it's all panned out by the chart. So,
thank you.
Any questions? It's just coming on.
Well, I think like it.
Sorry,
Thank you. Nobody
it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I get that. I do.
For a birth chart, that's amazing if you think about it.
Yeah, there's no other
Actually find
data.
that out. But, you know, I mean, a question would be like, do some people have a birth chart and then that they go in completely different
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah, so there are people, like all of us, our growth spurts are at different levels, yeah? We become conscious at different points. There's moments we might pop and say, yes, I learned, and then we're in the nightmare thinking, what happened?
Yeah.
So
the lights switched off.
yeah, the lights are like, hold on, I thought there was a glimmer somewhere, but there wasn't. So we're all on our own individual journey, and all I say is once you know something, you can't say you don't know it. What you choose to do about the knowledge is in your hands. That's entirely up to you, whether you want to take on the challenge of transformation. That's really in the hands of clients. All I can do in terms of my Dharma, and that's a North Node, is how can I enable people to reconnect these dots in ways that are going to be healthy for them. What they choose to do after that is entirely up to them. But yes, so thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions? I must have a drink now.
Yeah, you need a drink. Again, this aspect of free will.
Choice.
When you have strong setups in your chart, I haven't got the right language.
Yeah.
When you've got constructs in your chart,
Yeah.
how strong is the pull with that
Your
chart?
level of consciousness is
Right.
your level of awake.
So you can be completely asleep and
Throughout
completely miss
everything.
single opportunity.
And be in your South Node.
Yeah.
Because you're living in your comfort zone. I know this.
Yeah.
But could you be like sleeping but just still like
Wondering.
no, but could you still wander into it as well? Like so, do you know what I mean?
So let's look at it this way. We all have a sense. Yeah, we all have a sense of our kind of natural cycles. We all have our own natural cycle. I speak for myself. When I started to wake up, I could see my own transformations taking place. And how would it show up for me? It could be in the person I meet, that piece of information I wanted. It could be an opportunity that's come my way because I'm now resonating from a place of being more awake than I was previously. And my cycle is different from your cycle. We all have our own cycle, and the cycles can be triggered when there are transits, i.e. where the planets are today and if they speak to your chart in a particular way. But all I've done here with this is provide like the bare bones of here's a narrative that could play out. And there are healthy, here's a narrative. So someone is awake and there's a deep resonance when you're coming from this place of self-care.
I was going to say,
Self-care.
how do you become? I'm going to say we're all doing this. We're all becoming conscious or being conscious. How did we get here? How did we?
Because of the choices we made, and it's difficult for us to admit that. There are choices. There's many times I say, I've made some poor choices. I remember saying this recently to someone, and she was saying, don't say that. I said, but I own it. I'm really comfortable saying it.
Yeah.
I've made some poor choices. That's on me.
Yeah.
That's not on you.
Yeah.
Now, I can continue making the poor choices.
Yeah.
But the more it's like, you know what, I don't need to travel down that
But
road
sometimes
again.
you have to go backwards to go forward.
And that's absolutely true. And there comes a point.
Yeah, and I feel like I've done that in my life sometimes, and I thought, why did I do that? But it moved me into a different area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
But it comes to a point whereby we need to stop. We need to stop. Like I got in my own way. Yeah. Astrology is one tool that can help people unblock their passage.
That's that resonates. This unblocking.
Unblocking.
But what I was going to ask you is
Yes.
because you, I mean, beautifully, because like you have a lot of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And you beautifully communicate. And so I stayed with you because of how you did this taster session. But I'm also like, mine's pinging. You know what I mean? I'm a bit like saturated, but I'm sort of like, I'm now interested again with this self-care to think, well, I just need to start slowly.
Mm.
I need to understand a bit more my own triad.
Yeah.
So have you got any tips for how you can start to self-care, self-educate through what seems to be, because I don't
One
know
step
if
at a time.
Yeah.
One step at a time. But the thing is, I think I'll speak for myself and what moved me from points. The more honest I got with myself, and let go of sacred cows, the more brutally honest I was with myself, and I let go of sacred cows, life has started to become easier.
Yeah.
Because sacred cows are, well, I can't rock the boat because what if I do this, will you still love me? Or you know, if I really become myself, will I disappoint my parents? And what if sacred cows, the places we think we can't go to because we are upholding other people's expectations of the role they placed on you, where you haven't exercised your choice about what's meaningful to you. So I live in a world where I don't have sacred cows. I'm very naked, very upfront and very in your face. So there are no places that I can't go to, and I can bring emotional, brutal honesty to myself first. And then that is so freeing, because I can own I made a terrible choice there. Mm. And because I know I've made a terrible choice, and I own the terrible choice, and I'm not pointing my finger at anybody else. So when similar situations present themselves, I think, oh, hold on a minute. It's like, do. Yeah. Hold on a minute. Now, I could follow the South Node, the tried and tested, because, you know, I'm in my comfort zone. But my choice for my life, and for all of us, whether we exercise it or not, the growth will come through the North Node. So in answering your question, the more honest you are with yourself, whether you share that with anybody else or not, we all know. We all know. We know every single thing we've done, the good, the bad, and the damn right ugly. We know it. Whether we choose to admit it to ourselves or to, you know, dare share it with anybody else, it's in those moments is when we can start administering self-care, because another situation might present itself and think, oh, hold on, this has the memory of. Do you know what I mean? Do I do what I usually do?
Yeah.
Or do I step back and think, I've got consciousness now. I can now choose. This is where this free will comes in. Yeah. We can choose.
Yeah.
Every situation I've got myself into, bar a couple, which I can say I've literally, and it's not was I sleepwalking, I would say the vast majority of situations that I've got myself into in hot water, I knew. Why? Because we know it. We feel it. And what I've said to myself, I no longer commit crimes against my soul. I no longer do that. So therefore, I just live in a very free way. And whether you like me or not is immaterial, because I have to be honest to my journey of self-care and what that means for me. And we all have it in our own individual ways. So that's it, ladies.
I love it. Can I just share something? I know it's late, but there's something that I've not wanted to disclose,
do you want to disclose it on camera or not? Shall I tell the camera?
No, it's fine. The camera can stay on because it's coming.
Yes.
It's coming. But I just wanted to say there's something quite fundamental that I haven't wanted to disclose, and so I've been saying I can't move forward unless it's disclosed. And what the universe, planets, I can't describe it as doing, is creating an environment in which I know I can disclose it. So it's almost like when I first was, that's hidden, don't want that to come out, could be catastrophic, to 6 months later, actually where I am now, it won't really mean much. It's kind of, it's diffused, you know, the potential explosion that could have happened. Now, when I share it, it's going to be like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. So in a way, I feel it feels like a bit of a cop out, because I haven't had the big explosion because of it. It's literally it's going to slide out and not mean anything. So I think that's great. So.
You were like, thank God.
Because at the time I thought, no, I can't disclose that. And now it's like, yeah, I can't wait.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so just sort of tell me.
Any,
Not without
See
disclosing
you
it.
next week.
any other questions? Any questions that anyone has?
I'm looking forward to next week.
Okay. What about you, June? Any questions at all?
There are too many information to digest from
Yeah.
and could you recommend some books or some other ways I can do some self-research or
I'm looking for the good.
but it's hard to believe it really makes sense and all the
Yeah, so the way that I analyse this, it's because of experience that I can then bring another layer. So there isn't a book I can say, oh, this method. I'm thinking of a good introductory book. I don't know if you can still get it, but I would go back to the very first book I bought all those years ago, and I still have it in a bookshelf. And it's called Aspects of Astrology. And it's by the first person who taught me astrology, and where I was in the room, I was like, and then she said, well, I'm leaving London, so I won't be teaching you, but she's great. Aspects of Astrology by Sue Tompkins. I would recommend that book. So she wrote it back in, well, I studied it in the 90s, I think the book was written in the 80s, 90s, but it's a good text. Yeah, it's a good text. Any other questions? Anything I can, anything? No?
I'm quite full too.
Yeah, yeah.
I think.
I don't know if anyone, if you wanted a question, turn this off. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That's, yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I said, you know, if people want to